This is AM 650's The Law Show with Sterling Fox. Now back to the show.
Good to have you with us this Sunday morning. Red Robinson and the Diner coming up at noon. Scott Stanley and Kevin Gorley are with us from Murphy Batista LLP, personal injury law firm in Vancouver, on this episode of The Law Show, talking about getting your life back and talking about all of the matters relating to personal injury cases. We've just gone through the ABCs of trying to find a lawyer that's going to be in your corner and do a good job for you. Let's assume that we've settled that. We've settled on someone. So what are you get that phone call, help, I was in a traffic accident, I don't know whether I need you or not, but can I come in and talk? And you say, yeah, sure, okay. So Kevin, when that person comes to meet you for the very first time, you've had maybe a very preliminary brief telephone call.
Yep.
When that person comes down to Murphy Batista, what is it good to bring with them for that first meeting with the firm?
Well, sometimes, especially if the accident was quite recent, they might not have anything, and that can be fine. But the more of the information they can bring, the better. So if they have a copy of the police report, that sort of thing, that can be helpful. What we're seeing a lot more now is people have photographs on their smartphones.
Oh, sure,
from
of course.
From the accident scene.
So if you get into an accident, is it a smart idea to pull out the phone and just start taking pictures?
Yeah, that can be very helpful to show the damage, show where the vehicles came to rest, that sort of thing.
We actually have an app that people can download, and it walks you through what you can do.
Is it on the website?
It is, yeah.
MurphyBatista.com. Look for what do you call the app? It's just an accident-type app?
Yeah, Murphy Batista app.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, that's cool. So it gives you a kind of a step-by-step walkthrough?
Yes.
Excellent. So you're talking about break out the cell phone and the cameras and take as many pictures as you can. We live in an era in which it's not difficult to imagine yourself being on camera pretty much anywhere, especially in the downtown core of a city like Vancouver. Closed-circuit cameras all over the place. Have they been beneficial in surprising ways at all, Kevin?
It's become a lot more common to have accidents caught on camera. All of the local municipal buses now have cameras on them. So
of
we
course.
get accidents caught on bus footage commonly now. We had one recently where our client was in a pretty serious accident with an RV. The RV was turning right directly in his path, and our client had a bad concussion, so he wasn't able to really tell us exactly what had happened.
Mm-hmm.
Fortunately, the RV was pulling into the RV depot to return his RV,
and
it turned out that the RV depot had a surveillance camera there that actually caught the entirety of the accident on it and showed that the accident happened when the RV turned right from the left lane directly into our client's path.
And your client was so banged up, he actually thought he was responsible and didn't believe to the contrary until there was videotape evidence.
His own memory was so foggy that he couldn't really tell
Isn't that interesting?
Exactly what had happened.
Wow. Police officers in many jurisdictions, not all across Canada yet, Scott, but many of them use dash cams. These are they helpful? And who gets to use the video on a police surveillance video?
Well, if I mean, in our cases, the police show up after the fact.
Right.
And so they're not going to see any part of the accident. But I think Kevin had a case recently where the person was in an accident and a person actually had one of these dashboard cameras, just like the police did, and turned that over to our client, and it showed the accident. So yeah, I think that's what we're going to see now.
Well, this is just a motorist passing by, Kevin, that happened to have a dashboard. I don't get why people want those, but in your case, who cares? They had valuable evidence, right?
Yeah, they seem to be more common. There was that recent issue in Russia where the dashboard camera caught the asteroid coming down and hitting the Earth.
That's right.
But yeah, this was a left turn accident, which can often be quite contentious because it's often whether or not somebody ran a late yellow or a red light.
Mm-hmm.
And my client was turning left, and there was somebody just stopped at the intersection in their own vehicle who just happened to have a dashboard camera. So he came out after the accident and gave his contact info to our client, and then sent along the video, and that can be very helpful.
Makes your job a little easier, huh?
It becomes a lot less of a he said, she said, which they often are if you don't have that kind of evidence.
Well, exactly. But back to that meeting with you fellows at the office, and you're saying that in some cases, if it's just been an accident, you've just so rattled, you haven't even been to ICBC for a claim number yet, then you just go talk. But what other information, Scott, would be helpful to bring along to that first encounter at the law firm?
Well, I mean, you're going to want to have the names of your doctors. I mean, not a lot of information is, as Kevin said, if they've just been involved in the accident, they're not going to have a lot of information. And so it's really the lawyer's job to identify where this further information is going to come from.
Okay.
And so it's more important that after we've been retained, we keep in touch with the client and the client keeps in touch with us. So we know they've seen a new doctor, we want to get those records. They've switched jobs, we want to get those records. They've been fired, we want to speak to the person. So really, we plant the seed at the beginning of the retainer, and then we just follow it through. And as the person convalesces and goes through their recovery and tries to get back to their normal life, we basically just monitor it and we investigate it as we go forward. So it's like a bottle. We do very, very little at the beginning and a lot at the end.
Okay, now I need to take a quick break, but just with that thought in mind, Scott, before we take the break, is there a statute of limitations? If you're involved in an accident and you want to file a claim or some damages, or you have legal issues, what's time frame are you dealing with in order to make everything legal and proper?
2 years from the date of the accident.
Okay. It has to happen. There are exceptions in the case of children, but we'll talk about that. But it's a 2-year deal. So if you're involved in an accident and you want some satisfaction, you've got to get your house in order in less than 2 years.
Correct.
Interesting. This is The Law Show. Our guests are Scott Stanley and Kevin Gorley from Murphy Batista LLP, and we're back with more after this quick timeout.
There's more of the show still ahead. This is AM 650's The Law Show.